What's up everybody? Welcome back to Pens and Tea. My name is Carrie and today we are talking about a blueberry jam tea and the Pilot Vanishing Point. So this tea, surprise surprise, I got from David's Tea, which seems to be almost every tea that I have. This one is a blueberry jam flavor. So the reason why I picked this one up is because you can drink it hot and you can also ice it. So it being, middle of May, I thought it's time that we start getting into iced teas. So this says a fruity blend blueberries with black tea, elderberries, cornflowers, and stevia is the most perfect companion to your morning toast. I would agree with that, drinking it more in the morning because it is a sweeter tea. It's not like crazy sweet. It does have a little bit of kind of like a tart edge to it. And I think that's just like the blueberries and blackberries. But it does have stevia in it, so it's not too tart. So it does have sweetener in it, so that you may either want to avoid or you may either want to go for it because you don't need to put sugar in this one. Because it's a mixture of like a fruit blend and a black tea, this does have a low caffeine content. So if you're sensitive to caffeine but you still prefer a more richer flavor of a black tea, then this could be a good combo for you to go with because it's pretty low. It's $8.98 for 50 grams, which is this size bag. This one you take about a teaspoon or so and you drop it in your steeper, your filter, anything that you're going to use to steep the tea. You steep it at, it says 205 degrees Fahrenheit. Or 96 degrees Celsius. I let this one go to a full rolling boil, and I didn't notice a difference. I've tried it a few different ways, couldn't tell. And then you let it steep for about 4 to 7 minutes. I'm about 4 or 5 minutes on this one. If you let it steep longer, then you're going to get more of that tart side coming out. So if you prefer kind of a bit of a sour, more taste, then let it steep a little bit longer. When you ice it, you follow the exact same directions, except put more of the loose leaf tea in, because when you do an iced tea, the melting ice is going to dilute the taste of the actual tea itself. So that's why you put more leaves in, so you can get the same flavor. I really like it. I don't think it'll be one that I drink all the time. It's definitely not going to be a go-to tea for me. But I do like it for a bit of a change. And it tastes pretty close to the name, blueberry jam. So, good on you, David's Tea. With that tea today, I thought let's talk about the Pilot Vanishing Point. This one in particular is the Twilight Finish, which unfortunately is no longer available. There are loads and loads and loads of different color finishes, even different materials. You can get one that's like made out of bamboo. For you to choose from. The biggest pro to this pen, for the fountain pen industry anyway, is that it's a click retractable nib, which is super rare for fountain pens. There are other ones, other pens out there that are click retractable. This isn't the exclusive one that is, but it's rare. And just for convenience sake, especially like if you're a student, you're taking notes, you're in a, boardroom kind of thing, taking notes, anything where you're not constantly writing, constantly keeping that flow going. That way you don't have to constantly screw on your cap, screw off your cap, post your cap. It's just, it becomes kind of crazy. So this one's really quick and easy. So I really like that. You do have the option to buy separate nib units, which for Pilot is very rare. Typically Pilot doesn't let you buy any component pieces to their pens. So the fact that they've allowed, Pilot Vanishing Point nib units to be sold is phenomenal. And I believe, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe you can get anywhere between an extra fine and a 1.1 stub. It is a gold nib, and it is a small nib. So much like the Lamy 2000 nib, it is, kind of hidden, half of it's hidden, and it is small. So you'll see in the writing sample, you're not going to get a crazy amount of line variation. Just like, again, the Lamy 2000, because the nib is so small, it doesn't allow the tines to separate the whole way. And I would say when you hold it in your hand, it's ever so slightly nib heavy. If you have very large hands, then you're not going to notice that at all. But the smaller your hands are, the more likely you are to notice that it's a little bit nib heavy. Because it's a decent chunk of weight, for this pen that's resting more towards the nib size. The cons of this pen, definitely, like I said, with the nib itself, because it's small, there's no room for nib design. It's just blank. There's nothing there. So that could bug some people if they really want to get like fancy finishes. But it doesn't really bother me. Something that also doesn't bother me, but is a huge thorn in some people's sides, is the clip. So because it's a nib retractable, there's nothing up here that's really gonna hold your pen in place. So they've put the clip by the nib. So when you hold the pen, the clip is actually in between your thumb and your pointer finger, which for me, totally fine. Doesn't bother me at all. I do rotate a little bit when I write, but if you do have an irregular grip, and I say that because who has a different grip, I don't know, but that could be a big bother for you. And then the last thing is that it is proprietary Pilot cartridges. So if I pull the nib unit out here, it comes with the Pilot Con 50, which, once again, I'm gonna put an asterisk here, doesn't bother me whatsoever because I change my nibs, or my ink, a lot. But for those of you that, like large ink capacities, this converter is one of the smallest ink capacities that are out there. One thing I do want to mention is that it is meant to take Pilot proprietary cartridges as well. But there is kind of an extra step, if you want to call it that, and that what comes with the pen is this little guy here. So basically you take your Pilot cartridge and you would put this on top. So it's kind of like a little metal sleeve. So that way when you are hitting that click retractable, you're hitting it against the metal instead of the plastic. So it's meant to protect the end of your cartridge from any leaks or anything like that. Because there's going to be a little bit more stress on the back of the cartridge than in any other typical Pilot pen. So that's something to be aware of as well. But they give it to you when you order the pen. So it's not like you'll have to buy that separately or anything. So pricing is $148 for the regular version. So if you get like bamboo or anything like that, it's going to be more. So $148 for Americans. The separate nib unit, so if you don't buy the body, you just buy that nib unit, is going to be $81.15. For Canadians, it's going to be $205 for the whole pen, and $100 for the nib unit. So it's a little pricey to get separate nib units, I think, especially for Canadians. The overall price of the pen, $200, is a little high, but you can definitely still find it for less than that, especially, depending on where our dollar lies, you can buy it in the States and then have that kind of pricing work out a little bit lower for you. That said, you can also now purchase the Pilot Decimo. I haven't seen any Canadian retailers sell this yet, but American retailers are starting to get it, where it's the exact same pen, exact same nib unit, but it's a smaller body, so it's a little bit less heavy and a little bit smaller around, kind of like diameter-wise. To me, this is perfect diameter-wise. I mean, I got chunky, meaty fingers, but if you have small fingers, or you don't like pens that are, heavy at all, then I would maybe check out the Pilot Decimo. But like I said, you're either gonna have to go overseas or import that from the States. So that's something to think about. But let's jump into the writing sample and I will show you what this bad boy can do. So as always guys, this paper that I've been using recently is the Clairefontaine paper. So it's very smooth paper, and the ink is Waterman Serenity Blue. And this nib just glides across the page. Super, super smooth. This is a medium nib, so it's definitely very, very smooth. As far as the wetness goes, it's pretty decent. This ink isn't the wettest ink I've ever used, but this pen's not too bad. I wouldn't call it necessarily like a wet pen, but it's certainly not dry. As far as line variation goes, you'll get a teeny bit, but you're not going to get like a huge amount. Like I said earlier, because the nib is so teeny, it doesn't have like big enough tines to be able to be spread apart. But you can definitely, like when you put pressure down on it, you'll definitely get a wetter flow, which will really appear as though the line is getting larger, especially if you have more absorbent paper. As far as the smoothness goes, it is like a baby's butt. And don't get that confused with baby's bottom, because it definitely doesn't have that issue. Only once have I ever had any startup issues with this pen, and that was because I was using an ink that's very, very thick, and it's a troublesome ink. It was one that I've actually had issues with in multiple pens. Other than that, I've never had any issues whatsoever. Even when you write really, really fast, it doesn't have issues keeping up at all. And the fact that you can just kind of like retract it really quickly, you can see there I actually got a drip. That's not common. This is actually the first time I've ever seen that. But, you know, if you're writing kind of thing, you can avoid drying out your nib by just clicking it in really quickly. For reverse writing, no, you can't really. I mean, technically you can see it, but it's really scratchy when you do that, and obviously you're not going to get much flow out of it. Plus it's kind of weird with the clip if you try and reverse write. As you can see, it's perfect for me, but you know, if your grip is a little like this, or you do like a 4-fingered grip, that could be a little bit weird. But guys, this to me is great. I really, really enjoy it. So I would recommend you picking it up, but of course it's up to you. But guys, if you like this video, hit that thumbs up. If you really like this video and you haven't yet subscribed, please do so. I make videos every Monday and Friday. And as always, please do not be afraid to leave any comments, questions, or concerns down in the comment section below. I read them all and answer them as quickly as I can. Awesome. Guys, thank you very much. I will see you next time. Bye.